Hello, my name is Troy Ruhe,
I'm Tyler Hoskins.
and you're listening to our Sick Ass podcast. Kia ora, and welcome back to another live episode of the Sick Ass podcast. Today's guest, we are very lucky to have him today. Now, I've met this boy back in 2017, and we're not really meant to say it as part of our job, but he was definitely, well, you're not meant to have favorites, but he was definitely one of my favorite residents to look after. And the reason I say that, though, is because he made an effort to actually get to know who he was around, and he actually made an effort to get to know who I was. And as you can see, we've been in close contact since then. So that was 2017 where I pretty much lived with him for a year. But then years after that, we actually made sure we stayed in touch. He's one of those people that you don't really have to put too much effort in. Every time we do meet back up, it's basically a podcast every single time. So this time we thought we'd set the mic up and get into it. So today we have Tre Mako in the building. Thanks for coming in.
Oh, pleasure to be here, man.
Yeah, I know I made you feel a little bit uncomfortable there, but it's the truth and it needed to be said. So the first thing that we're going to start off, so that people can get to know you a little bit, we're just going to talk about your origin. So if you can let the people know where you're from, and then we can kind of go from there.
Oh, sweet. Cheers, bro. So I guess Southern boy, grew up down in a beautiful place called Bluff, right down the bottom of the South Island. I pretty much lived there most of my life up until probably like 14, high school sort of state, and that's where I bounced between Invercargill, kind of coming back and forth. Obviously, as you grow up a bit more and get licensed, you can go places.
Nice.
But yeah, I grew up down in Bluff, went to primary school there, and Kidney, obviously, and then headed to Southern Boys High School for high schooling, and then came to uni.
Nice.
Pretty much.
So you stayed down in the South Island most of your life?
Yep. So I haven't really ever been anywhere else. Like most of my family either from Wanganui up north or Motueka, kind of just out of Nelson.
Right.
It's kind of where the family tree extends to, but I've lived pretty much all my life down south.
Nice. And you talked about kind of moving around between like Invercargill, Bluff, and that little bit of freedom there, and it kind of sounds like you were someone who couldn't stay still too much. So what was that all about? I mean, you're from a small place, but then kind of this want to expand, and you got your license. So do you have any like particular reasons as to why that kind of came about?
I think like obviously as you grow up, you start from being this little bubba, little young child to being like real family orientated. So obviously you grow up over the years and become more of your own individual. Yeah. And obviously through primary school and then to high school, that's kind of more and more becoming the case. Like I don't know, you get amongst sports, extracurricular activities, stuff like that. Relationships with people and stuff like that become really important to you. I think mainly for me, I was just someone I hated being at home. I like to get out and do stuff, do things that I was enjoying, or just kind of any excuse to get out of home and do something. Yeah. To be honest.
Nice. So, I mean, as a teenager, kind of you do get part of those extracurricular activities. What were your favourite pastimes?
I think even to this day, so I played a bit of sport like rugby, basketball. I boxed as well, amateur boxer. Did a few things kind of outside of it, but I think the most like fulfilling things for me probably were just like the peer tutoring, like the mentoring, the stuff that we did within the school, as well as coaching. Like that, I found that real amazing. Like I don't know what it is, but it's like just helping people realize something. It's like whether you were teaching them maths or English or whatever it is, you kind of like trying to help them find the next step, and then when they've got it, I don't know, it's like their own sense of fulfillment that they've achieved it, but then it's like helping them get there feels like so much more.
That's so cool, man. That's I think that's it's testament to your character. When I met you at the hall, there were a few volunteering gigs that did come up, and it's really difficult to get like 17, 18-year-olds who on a Saturday morning or a Sunday morning, like, nah, I'll be too dusty. You were always one of the first people that put your hand up, kind of no questions asked, and I can kind of see where that comes from, and that's a nice segue into, from your childhood and growing up, and why you chose to come to Dunedin to end up studying what you're studying. So you came in 2017 and you did a foundation year, but what was the kind of plan coming from year 13 into university?
I suppose so. I guess I went through, so pretty much, I went through school and high school just real focus on sports and getting to know people and putting myself out there, trying to, you get to a point when you kind of think, socializing takes up so much of your time, and you get told, don't do it, do this and that, stay on the path, that's what the rents always say, and the family always sort of say, when you come from a more mature aspect. But, when you grow up, you kind of learn that those parts of life are really important to expand, more than just your socials. It just sets up relationships, and communication is like the key to the world. It's so massive. So with that was kind of what I was all about. And then I kind of got to a point where I thought maybe just getting achieves in high school isn't actually going to get me much elsewhere than where people I'd known or people I was friends with were planning on going, or weren't too worried about where they were going. And I kind of just thought, well, what can I do that I will enjoy every day, that will not just like maximize opportunity for myself, but also for my family, and my friends. What can I go out and achieve and learn and bring back and offer, and in a way to help propel other people forward as well. Because it's like, you don't forget the people that help you get to where you are, so you try and pass on, just trying to carry on that loop, like a positive feedback loop.
For sure. That's really cool, man. And I really like that. I mean, the theme that's come through nearly every answer that you've said was that, you set up those key relationships, but you also remember the people who went before you, and then somehow try to be that person. So the person for you who came through, you can then be for someone else growing up, coming through as well. That's awesome. And so, like I said before, you did a foundation year. So the foundation year is similar to a bridging year, I guess. But this one was specifically for Māori. So you got a scholarship to do that?
Yeah. So in year 13, I applied for the Tukaika program. So essentially what that is like all over New Zealand, there's, I think when I got it, it was kind of like maybe 18, 16 or so students from schools all over New Zealand, and pretty much came down, like you applied, they came down to interview you at your school, which is really great. Obviously get the family and careers advisor in there, help during the discussion and stuff like that. And then what goes from there is you essentially get chucked in either Arana or Studham. Obviously like two of the best halls to be at in Dunedin, arguably. And I mean, like, just even having that option is insane in comparison to other halls and stuff like that. Like, being able to be given like a choice to be at either is amazing. Especially with the sort of academic, sporting people that are in there. It's honestly like, it was a privilege to be there, and have the assistance of the staff there and meet people there as well, because they're all, like at university we've got so many people here doing amazing things, who have done amazing things, have come from all walks of life. So being in a really good environment such as that is amazing. So got that. Also got money towards the hall fee. So back then it was like maybe 14,400-ish for the hall, and so you get like $7,000 towards that. Massive help, especially for like people like us, like Māori, obviously not everyone, but it is known that economically kind of and financially quite disadvantages.
Absolutely.
Disadvantage is quite a key thing, and like honestly, like for me, if I didn't get that or the Māori Pacifica scholarship from the University of Otago, like there's no way I would have even been here to this day. I would have never known you.
Yeah, absolutely.
To be honest.
I didn't do the foundation year, but I got that that first entrance scholarship, and I remember saying to my dad that if I hadn't got that scholarship, I probably never would have gone to university, because there was no way I could have forked out enough money to like even think about staying at the hall, and just all those things that we kind of, other people can just take for granted. It's like, no, I'll just go to uni, but we have to really, like a lot of us had to dig our heels in and just be like, if this is what I'm going to do, I need to like stick at it. So you did Foundy, and then you went to your first year of Healthsci. Before we get to Healthsci, did you see your foundation year as like pivotal in where you are, or do you think you could have gone without it?
I think I always say that if I had never done it, I don't think I would have stood a chance in health science. And it's not just about like the academic preparation of it as well. It's like, as young people coming to university, like some people adjust to it really well. A lot of people don't. Like it's just what it is. And like, so for Foundy, even though like in high school, I might not have gotten the best education in comparison to other people at university. Like that's that is a thing that exists in New Zealand as well as many other countries. But just having kind of that year to get up to speed with who you are as a person, how you need to study efficiently at at the university, as well as have that bridging into university. Essentially, like it's massive. It's a huge help to us, and I wouldn't not take it up. I wouldn't tell anyone to not take it up, even if they felt academically they didn't need it, because you can never be academically as prepared as you need to be for a course such as that. Like, and any other course, you can never be prepared fully. So it's definitely an opportunity that if it's there for you, I wouldn't argue not taking it.
Nice. I do agree with that quite a bit, because there are a lot of people, especially even in my year, where when we came down, there were these people who just like, the people at school, you're like, this guy's going to be the prime minister, like all those different things. And then as soon as they got to uni, it was like, shit. And they just got a real culture shock. I mean, first they had to get used to being in a new city. Then they had to figure out, like, what is university? And, they were so good at NCEA, and they were so good with all these different people supporting them. And then as soon as they got here, it was kind of, now you've gone from this big fish in a like small pond to now you're the smallest fish in a huge pond. And all these people that we thought were like, these are the ones who are going to crack it, just like couldn't like crack it, because like there were so many different factors. So I mean, you've kind of spoken about it there. You don't just get, I guess, prepared academically, but you're also thinking about like, oh shit, this is life now, and I can adjust to this before you go into health sci. So it's a nice segue into your health sci year. What was the main differences from like a foundation year into your first year of health sciences?
As in, wait,
just like for you, what were the main, I guess maybe different challenges that came with it, but also
I think in terms of challenges, I think there was a lot more pressure on, I don't know whether it was like externally from other people in the whole, studying health science as well, or the pressure you put on yourself. Like for us, or for me in particular, like I had high aspirations to achieve this goal that I like still, when I was telling myself that, let's work hard, let's give it a go. But you're still telling yourself like from day one, it's like, you're not even in med school, but you're still getting imposter syndrome. Like even just thinking about like being at uni, you're like, but like, do I deserve to be here? Am I going to be good enough to make this course? What happens then? Like, it's like all this pressure you kind of put on yourself because you like, it just seems like such an unattainable goal.
Right.
Well, like for me personally, that's how I thought. I was like, well, like, and it's like kind of like when I got in, it was still like, holy shit. Like, I didn't know how to really like to celebrate it or to be upset about like how it went. It was such like a very like mixed feelings of emotion, I think. And you kind of just think, I don't know, like, because you're trying your best, but life gets in the way. Like you're doing this course that's one of the hardest courses to do, to get into one of the real major programs here at this university in particular as well. That it was hard. Like I think in terms of founding, like you had more of an ability to go out socially and meet people and do all the little things, find your foundations at university, whereas in house you kind of like you needed to knuckle down and really focus on the task at hand. Like it was a lot more pressure I found. And when we start talking about particular comments people make about admissions and also about us being in the halls or all this and that, all that sort of story, you kind of like, you're getting pressure from people saying that sort of stuff, but it starts becoming a negative voice in your head as well. That, you hear something enough, maybe they're right what they're saying, you don't really know, kind of, it's like more black and white to you now. Hard to articulate it, but it's kind of like someone's putting pressure on you, like the course is putting pressure on you, someone else is putting pressure on you, and then therefore you end up putting pressure on yourself as a result. So it makes it just like a little bit more hard. It's not like, I'll go to a hub section, let's focus on the key points out of the section, focus on like, it felt quite overwhelming in comparison to foundation.
That's a really interesting point, and it's something that does come across. Nearly every single interviewee that I've had spoke about the pressure that they put on themselves to be something. And you said the two words that it does come across, and that's imposter syndrome. And I mean, I think I'm still trying to figure it out myself. But what were some things that you kind of did, even back to your first year in health sciences, thinking like, man, I shouldn't even be at uni. Like there are other people who are more deserving. I mean, that we are our own worst critics a lot of the time. What were some things that you kind of did, or that did help you to be able to like overcome that and then be able to get to where you are now?
I think just remembering why I'm here. I guess like, and the whole like, there's this big picture, this bigger, higher purpose that you have, whether it's religion, culturally, or, for whatever reason, someone somewhere has a backstory, has things that kind of carry them into where they are and what they're doing, how they think, how they behave. For me, like it was more I wasn't fond of a lot of the environments my friends and family lived in, how things kind of played out in their lives and sort of like the situations they found themselves in. So I thought, like I would always think, obviously with health and illness, like seeing, like, so a massive thing for me in high school, I think that was a really big turning point in terms of what I wanted to do in life and where I wanted to go was, so my nan, she got cancer in her brain, and that obviously spread to her lung and stuff like that, and that was probably like the most horrible, to this day, like experience to have to see. And for that, I just kind of like, because we see all these stats and stuff like that, and you just think, like this, it's always going to be 2.1 times more as likely, this and that, but when you're really like down in the trenches, seeing that happening in your own family, and people who can relate and emphasize with this is like, it's kind of hits home for you.
Absolutely.
So when you're studying something like you want to be a doctor and you want to have these resources to bring back, like, whether it's like the financial side of it, when you have all this money so you can put more money into family trusts or, set up scholarships for further like Māori kids or family that want to come through and give it a crack. Like you get more resources to offer back so you can increase this, support the build up that we're trying to get more people into more successful and healthier lifestyles.
Yeah. Because
when you don't have a lot of opportunity to get out of that situation, well, it's bloody difficult to get them out of that. You can't just be like, don't eat this, do that exercise. Like it's more than just like solution. It's like, this huge thing that goes in the background, I feel.
Yeah, man, I feel that 100%.
So that's what I'm thinking about. Every time I'm thinking like, shit, like, what am I doing? Like, I can't handle this, or I think, oh, well, like, I've come here to one day be a doctor, go back to be a GP, like help teach people how to look after themselves better, help, give them options by sharing my own story with them and try and see if someone somewhere, anyone, like, it doesn't matter if it's 1 or 5 people or if it's 100 people that hear my story and think, why not give it a go?
Yeah.
Like, there's opportunities out there, why not take them? Like, see how it goes, and that's all I can really ask for. To be honest.
So cool, and that's why we started this podcast, and that's why, because we wanted to give a platform to people who are just doing extraordinary things, and sometimes you just get that one piece of feedback from one person who says, hey man, like, I feel better today, or hey, I went and did that thing that you said, and it's helped me, or it's helped my family, and all that, and like, it seems so minuscule, but then like, that's because we're so desensitized to statistics, because it's like, so and so percentage of this. But then if you think about how many people that really is and how many lives those people then affect, it's like, shit, like that's actually a lot bigger. So I really like that. And it's been enough of a drive for you to actually get you into medical school. So, I mean, going through, you always had that why with you. But what were your perceptions, and what was your kind of like, okay, so we see med as this, the mountain and the clouds of like heaven and everything that you want to get into. Pretty much everyone that I knew in health sci was gunning for med, and you got in. So what were your like perceptions? Obviously, I know why you want to do it now, but like going into it, what were the types of things that you were expecting, or like what was it about medicine that drove you so hard to get there?
Again, I guess like I talked about my nan before. So in my family, like, there's been heaps of kind of people that have experienced different types of illnesses and sort of setbacks in their lives to where they are now. And for me, like, in my opinion, it might be in contrary to some of my other family members if they watch this podcast, that she was kind of the centre of the family. Like, she was kind of like the mother duckling, essentially, which would take care of people and was that sort of person for everyone. And like, I spent a lot of time with her, I really enjoyed her company, and I think a lot of who I am as a person is largely driven by that time spent with her. So I don't know, like, that's kind of just like, I was always trying to think, what do I think I would like to do? And I thought, like, what did I first think? My first thing was to think about like genetics, like it was like genetics, come to uni to do genetics or do psychology. So I was real interested on how we can really break down little bits of people and figure out like what, like just figure out the whys.
Interesting,
essentially. And I don't know, I always thought about medicine, but I was kind of like, hell no, like that seems like, the cream of the crop, like these intelligent as people who just like cracking it. Like, you know, you view doctors as like just these amazing people who are so smart, like they do such good and help people, save people's lives and stuff like that, and bring them out of real tough situations, that it's like, it seems like such like you have to be this particular sort of person or be this intelligent, or, you know, like you have to be like high level kind of person to be in this thing. And that was kind of my view going into it, but I don't really share the same view as much now. It's kind of more like, it's not really about the academic thing. I just view a lot of it as just people who obviously are real onto it, really driven, real hardworking, but are honestly like great people. Like, you know, in every industry, everywhere, we have people that we don't really get on with well, and that's just the truth. Like, but you know, they've got their own stories, and so do we. You know, but the main thing about it is you really just need to be committed, and I feel like hardworking, like a bit onto it as well, always helps. But just being able to, like, you know, just be a good person, and I suppose like being what is a good person to each person is different and variable, but you know, just general things like being able to actively listen, like engage with other people, be empathetic. And I think that's really important. Like, we get taught about it quite a bit, but you know, like being able to really like try and put yourself in someone else's shoes. That way we can try maximize our abilities to support them in any which way or form that's needed for them individually. That's kind of what my view of medicine now, in terms of like what that kind of demand, that's what is required of us. I think like the important points. There's probably more that I haven't mentioned yet, but it's kind of what's coming out of my mouth at the time.
Absolutely. And there will be times where you start to see yourself as a person, and you start to see like instances in other people's lives that you can like reflect on and be like, man, that was very similar to me at that point, or now because I've seen that, I don't want to do that anymore. Have there been any instances during your time, like maybe a placement or something, where you're like, if I ever have to do this, or if this ever happens to me, I'm going to be very unhappy?
Yeah, you mean as if I had done a particular thing?
So like you
mean
like
like seeing someone?
You got like a bit of exposure to something that you never ever would have dreamed of experiencing, but because you are now like having to, you know, be that empathetic person that you are, and kind of being aware of the different things that happen.
I think a massive one for me, because obviously like, we're only 30, so we haven't quite been put on the wards or any practices and stuff like that, but we've had like little stints where we've gone and interviewed people in the community about you know, things they've experienced in their lifetime, and also had the pleasure of being put in the rest homes last year as a part of one of the aspects of our course. It's called Early Professional Experience, one of the major modules we do, and that's just all about obviously talking about the bigger things, you know, bigger than medicine stuff. It's kind of like, you know, the module, get in your field. It's like, you know, like think about what the kind of the background of things we're encountering in medicine every day. And for me in the rest homes, I think, like coming from from a background where rest homes not really affordable, but like also just not really our way of our work, dealing with older people. Like, you know, it usually would be, you know, they'll park up at the house, we'll be, you know, after school, roll up there, sit with old koro or whoever it is, like might be quite sick, quite old, just needing a bit of support. And that was kind of my aspect on what the older kind of aspects of your life was. You know, just you're just parked up and you're being looked after, because essentially like through life, you know, you have a parent that helps you grow, and it's not just till you're 18 you move out at home, it's like a throughout life thing, and it's just like this process of, you know, like you scratch my back, I scratch your back, you know, and that was kind of my view. But you know, seeing just, obviously it's a whole nother conversation about why people get put into rest homes, and I'm not going against that at all, but for me personally it was quite a shock to what I viewed, you know, the palliative side of life, or, you know, the end stages of life. It was, so for me, like seeing a lot of variable presentations and people, and being able to access all this information about them, and seeing this, it was crazy for me. I was quite, not in a state of it a while, but I just kind of got to that point where I was like, oh man, I personally wouldn't want to be in that situation. And like, what am I saying? I'm completely lost my channel, but because your question was like, what have I seen there? Like
the exposure that then like influences the way that you either go about your practice, or even think about like future.
Yeah. Okay, so dealing with elderly people, I guess I had this real bad view that, like, you know, cranky, they won't listen, all that sort of stuff. But there's so much, you know, much like when you make first judgments about people, or regardless of this, you know, they've got any conditions or anything going on with them that's setting them back in any which way, it kind of like allowed for me to kind of step back and go, okay, well, maybe I shouldn't think this straight away, or maybe I shouldn't do this straight away. I really need to think about the whys, the hows, you know, like actually be more open-minded about stuff, because not saying I've always been, but that kind of put that in perspective for me. And medicine, like a massive push on reflection and making sure like you're going over what you've done so you can be better in the future. And that for me, and obviously we had to write a bit of an essay about it that was in course, but it was massive for me to think like, oh, okay, like, so if I encounter stuff in the future, reflection is actually so good, because when you're actively trying to figure out, you know, detail what you've done, how you've gone about it, you can kind of understand why some people might not be too happy with how you've gone about it, you know. And it's like you can only get to that point if you're willing to, you know, actively go over what you've done. I think that was a massive thing for me going in learning.
Well, I think every professional at some point needs to do some like stage reflection. It's either like an audit, you actually get audited, or even when you play sport, like you do analysis of your play, and you have to watch it, and your coaches will tell you like what you did wrong, what you could have done better. You have to think about it and internalize it. And there are a lot of people who see reflections as a waste of time, and I mean those people probably just don't like feedback and they don't like criticisms. But are there like specific practices that you do within your course that actually forces you to analyze your actions?
Yeah, so like aspects of it, I suppose, like there's kind of like a lot of what we get in terms of feedback, like so for clinical skills and stuff like that is very, how would I put it? It's kind of like you need to understand why you're doing what you're doing, as well as if you get it wrong, why did you get it wrong? Like there's aspects of like it's such like that's a big topic in itself, but like, you know, I feel like my perspective on a person is like, you know, you say and do, you think what you do because of something, for something, you know, as you're growing up, you're taking pieces and pieces of things you see, things you've been taking, like your character is a big chemical mixture of your life up until that point, you know, like aspects of it that you, whether it's been beneficial or negative to you, there's reasons for why you think and do what you do. So when it comes to that sort of stuff, you know, it's kind of hard to dive away from yourself and think, okay, like Trailer, that was a pretty shit thing to say, you know, why did you do that? But at that time you're kind of thinking, oh, like I think it was okay. And it's real easy to just carry on that way. And I think obviously when we talked about reflection before, but it's really important to be able to, like, obviously we're made to look back at what we've done and said like that in an analytical way, but just getting into a thing where that's a normal, I think is really important.
Yeah. Do you find it makes it difficult for you to, so we've had this discussion on the podcast actually before, where there were times where I'd walk home and I'd just be like, you know what, I'd love to, and I wasn't saying anything bad about construction people, but you know, their job ends at 5 o'clock. Once they finish, it's like they don't go home and they don't think about the job most of the time. And I mean, once I clock out of the office, I'm always thinking, and I can't actually switch it off because I think, I could have done that better, I could have done that better. Like, does it make it difficult for you to turn off?
I like, maybe not all the time. Maybe, like, I think it's quite different depending on what's going on. Like, you talk about the construction guys. I just thought of something like straight away, like say one of the workers made a mistake at work, you know what I'm saying, like, and he got roasted by the boss. He's gonna, like, they're either gonna go, oh, whatever, sweet ass, like, don't worry about it. But then you make, like, after they go, oh shit, like, why did I screw up? Like, you're an idiot. Like, you know, and I think like, I think like for me in aspects, so one tutorial, I won't go full into the information. I'm not unsure. I don't think I'm allowed to talk about it. So we'll keep that confidentiality. But there was an aspect where we were talking with the person, and I had kind of said something to her that I felt was kind of not bad, but afterwards I definitely thought I shouldn't have said that. I should have said something different. But I kind of bowed myself out a bit by, like she had told an aspect of her story after that point, and then immediately I was like, oh, like I've been there with someone, like I really empathize with what you've gone through, but I just hated that it got to that point because of me making it such a like an ignorant comment that I just like didn't intend on it being that way, but I could definitely see that it would have been that way. So I've definitely had, and then I go home and I'm thinking about it and I'm like, why did I say that? Like, this is so stupid. Like, what have I done? Like, I hope she didn't find that really offensive, and that could be all in my head. But you know, there's aspects in the course and tutorials or in lectures or whatever sort of situation you find yourself in that I feel like if it's something that you definitely identify as being like, oh, that wasn't good, like that was not good form, mate. Like, you definitely kind of go away and you chip away at it on the drawing board a bit and think, oh, like, why did I say that? Like, sometimes you say silly stuff and you know it's real. It's not really meant, you know, it doesn't mean anything you think, but it could definitely have harsher effects on other people, and it just makes you more, not analytical, but you're kind of like more like haste, like you're more slower with what you say, and you make sure like you're articulating it in your own head before you spit stuff out. Like, you're trying to filter what you say in a way that is getting your point across, or what you're trying to ask, what you're trying to say, without you know, it coming across differently to how you would say.
Absolutely. It's trying to find that balance between being like completely ignorant versus being too analytical. So like you get to a point where you just unfiltered and say everything and ruin things, but then you get to the point where you don't say enough and then like it's not conveyed. So it's always trying to walk that tightrope, I guess, of trying to get those together. So just time-wise, this is a huge topic in itself, and we'll kind of just talk about how it directly influenced you, and if you had any other different thoughts. But you know, you are a Māori male, and you came into, you know, you got to go through TK, and then you got to go through health sciences, and then just recently, it's a very topical issue, I guess, and it kind of aligns with all of the Black Lives Matter stuff happening. But then here in Aotearoa, the ODT, I'm pretty sure, released it's been a contentious topic for a very long time, but that's the admission schemes of, you know, placements for, I think it's Māori, PI, and then maybe rural as well. So they're just given, it's not special consideration for entry, but there is, you know, we are trying to bridge the gap of workforce, Māori and PI in the different places so that we can better serve our communities, which is the part that everyone forgets. Everyone just thinks, you know, we're trying to get a leg up and all that, but you know, this does affect you because now that you are in there, like, you did get in on your own merit, but a lot of the time people see it as you just got in because of this scheme. Like, how does that actually play out in, I mean, someone who writes an ODT article has never actually been in there, and what they do is kind of like, it can affect a lot of people. So has there ever been instances or times where you feel, you know, even more like you're not meant to be there?
Oh yeah, but like most days, to be honest. And it's like, you know, like ODT stuff.co.nz.
Yeah, I know.
You know, like no words, just that, you know. I don't know, like it's kind of like there's, you know, the pressure we put on ourselves, the external sort of sources, but when you like put out a story, you know, it's out to every man and their dog on Facebook and whatever platform it is, so you get so many people commenting on it that, you know, and this is not just the admission scheme, but so much other things, topics in life and in general, that you just, you know, you're talking about something so out of context and without knowing the real reason why this particular thing is put in place. What, you know, the why, once you get really educated about history and about why these things are put in place, you have a different, I feel, you end up having a different perspective about it. And it's tough for us, like, for just speaking on my own sort of personal experience. I feel like a lot of people probably radiate well with how I feel about it. Some people may not. It just makes me gutted. I feel so, like, I feel quite not enraged by it, but it's like, it just feels as if you're being stripped of, you know, all the sacrifice you've put in to be here, all the, you know, like all the work you've put in, all the support, like all this other stuff that you're kind of putting, like trying to chat, like, face as well in order to get to this destination, and then it's just like more weight is being put on you by the feeling of guilt you get from, you know, like taking other people's opportunities away as well.
Right.
I think, like, for me, I was like, you know, like, I've known so many amazing people here at this university that, you know, sadly didn't get the chance to make it into a program that I've seen and got to know beautiful people, like amazing people, definitely go far in life and stuff like that, and that for me hurt a lot, but like just overcoming that, I'm like, well, the best thing I can do is just give it my best go and see how well I can go, and hopefully like just give it my all, really. And that's all I can really do, like take the opportunity, go with it, and just try and chase it continuously, and that's so when we see articles like that where it's just like, they're trying to bring attention, in my opinion, trying to bring attention back to their network or something by putting a controversial story out that just bars everyone up. Everyone may have like different opinions on why this and that, and that's okay. Like everyone's allowed that. That's all good. We've got to respect each other's opinions. But when it's put in the lens of that purely to incite opinion and argument, it's like that's all good. But we're on the backlash of that.
Exactly.
Like we're sitting at home, calling mum like gutted ass, having a cry, about something, like not feeling like we belong anymore, like not truly being able to appreciate the having this privilege to be in such an opportunity, like in a position to be, fulfilling a lot of, for us, is like a dream come true, man, like a massive opportunity. It just takes away from it, really, and it kind of makes you. It's adding negativity to something that's supposed to be like so good, like such a good thing.
We've got the mindset, and I guess, it kind of speaks to who you are as a person and like how strong your purpose for being here is, where like something like that could come across, and then some people just like fully throw the towel in because they're like, no, I never believed I was meant to be here, and now everyone else like has just proven to me that I'm not meant to be here. But you kind of saw this as an opportunity to be like, oh well, no one, like there is a group of people who don't want me here, but I worked so hard to be here, and I'm going to do the best that I can because that's all I know is to be the best. And it was a bit of a shock to me earlier when I asked, because I like met you as a 17-year-old, and I was just like, man, like this dude's gonna go far. And then you said to me like, nah, growing up I wasn't really that kid that everyone saw like was gonna come all the way through. So what actually, like, to turn into who you are now, like that would be a huge flip on its head. And was there anything in particular for you besides finding that purpose that you felt has kind of propelled you even more?
I think like largely like, so that big flip, so earlier on, you're a kid, you get up to mischief, you do things, you kind of give people an idea of like who you are and what you get up to. Earlier on, like obviously wasn't the model I think model kid, like I felt like I got up to a bit of mischief and never really got caught, so never really got in too much trouble. But I think for a lot of people who've known me over the years and who have known me when I was younger, like I guarantee you 9 out of 10 of them would sit here with me today and go, yeah, no way would I have thought you would be at uni, let alone doing what you're doing. And that's like a really humbling thing for me, because it makes me feel like, well, like in order to change myself and to pursue such like a crazy idea at the time when I was younger and actually be here is insane. I had a physics teacher in high school who was massive. He first got me on the first sort of Māori wānanga that I jumped on here, where I met a lot of the staff over the Māori workforce, health and development unit, and that kind of set that bridge for me into uni. And so with that push, and you should be a doctor, like like I always had this sort of idea about it, but just like, hell no, like there's no way in hell that I will ever be able to be in that position. But just like continuing support, even just like little bits, just builds your confidence up, and you just go, like let's give it a hit. And I think like when my nan passed away from cancer, I think after that I was like, I know, because she was probably like one of my biggest supporters, and like I know like if she was still kicking around, like, she'd be like would have been supporting me all the way. So I thought, like I'll give it a go, why not? Like if I can get this, then it's going to be massive, not just for me, but for my friends and my whānau as well. So I figured like the least I can do is try, and if it doesn't work, well, there's so much more out there to find. And we're continuously trying to find our own identity and what we want to do in life and how we can make it wholesome and enjoy ourselves. So I just thought, why not just give it a kick, see where the ball lands.
Spoken like a true professional, man. And just, for those of you who don't know Tre, he's only 21. And to have these insightful reflections, I think is extremely valuable. And I think, hopefully as this goes out, or if people get to meet you, there are people who from here see this as an avenue, or even academia as an avenue to come in and make a real difference back to your community. So our final question for today is kind of so that people can have a tangible takeaway as to how is it that you become like who you are and how you operate through your day. So it's an almost daily practice. It can be a daily practice if you do it every time, but it's what is it that you do or a habit that you have that makes you feel like, yep, Tre's had a good day, or we're set up for at least a good day tomorrow?
I think like I don't have the secret herbs and spices. I don't have my KFC ready fried chicken mixture of like how I would go about doing that. But I think I just like above all things just being realistic. Yeah. And again, like we've talked about it quite a bit, just the reflection side of things, because everyone has a different method of how they go about figuring out whether their day was good or they've done enough to achieve what they for the day, at least, goals, whether you got sort of a calendar, to-do list and stuff like that. But, I follow a few of those things, but I just try to be realistic about it. Like, if, say you got people training, you go in the gym or you're going out for dinner or you're going for lunch and stuff like that, and just trying to be like, reflect about it. Okay, like I've done 4 hours of study, gone to this and that, I've done exercise and things like that. Okay, I didn't get that much study done as I want to, but I've gone and done this, and it's really good to be doing that. So, I'm happy with the day, like, to be honest. You think about it, it's just like being, like, not just don't be too hard on yourself. I think where life comes and goes in terms of difficulty, like things happen that are out of your control, and it's like, if you're trying to stand up on a wave, you don't try and fight the wave, you try and ride it. So you got to be realistic about it, I feel, is the best approach.
That was an awesome analogy there. Don't fight the wave, and all you can do in that moment is do the best that you know on that wave at that time, and if things don't go your way, then instead of being hard on yourself, just like kind of see where you can pick up next time. That's awesome, man. And I think being flexible was probably why you have adapted so well over the course of this time. So before we take off today, what I guess going forward, when you do finish all of your studies, like what do you have a big dream or something that you're like, man, that would be awesome if X could happen?
I've got a lot of those.
I've
like obviously over the years at uni, like I've had so many opportunities. I could name a lot of scholarships and grants that I've been fortunate enough to be able to attain and use. That I also wanted to do something like that, where it's obviously like Bluff community, but maybe also something to the iwis I belong to, just help get, because like the most important thing I think for growth, is working on the younger generations coming through. So just being able to help provide more opportunities for younger ones coming through, like I was able to get myself, would be really massive for me. But in terms of career wise, I think I've always had an idea about being a general GP, and maybe working in that sort of scene, but owning it, like being an owner of a practice, like like shares sort of thing, and having sort of free kind of whether you're doing like first aid training for free for people, and like just for our people and stuff like that, just back iwi run stuff, like giving back to people who have given to me so much over the years to get me to where I am. It just seems not just a sensible thing to do, but the right thing to do. Like we were looking after people's health in our career, but what it's all about what we do in the background, outside of the lens of the limelight and stuff like that. That really is what we need to be doing to contribute to that growth. So yeah, I don't know. I just want to be able to provide more opportunities for the younger ones coming through. Obviously, put myself and my family in a better position than we've been in. So that's massive for me, and just hopefully be the best doctor I could possibly be in the future. But stepping stones, it's all about growth as you go along. So that's kind of where I'm at.
Man, what a chat. What a chat. That was absolutely, that's fantastic, and it flew all the way through. But just for now, I think we need to definitely get Tre back in the future just to see kind of how things do play out. But so many different nuggets to take away from this chat, and I think a lot of people who do watch this, and I really do hope that people who know you or know of you do watch this and kind of see what you're more about, because it's a reflection of everything that you've said during this, is like the why. Why is it that this person does that? Why is it that this person has been put into this position? And the reason why is because you actually know why, and you're still trying to figure out what your care for, but you're still just trying to be the best that you can be, depending on whatever that situation is. So, Trey, it's been an absolute honour having you on today, man. It's been fantastic.
Pleasure to be here, man.
Yeah, so hopefully I will tag him in the show notes and he'll be on all the posts. But if you wanted to get in touch with him, have a little discussion, he will be there. I think he'll be pretty down to have a little chat to anyone. And if anyone is inspired by this, please flick him or myself a message. But other than that, stay real, everyone.